So where did this dream of auto racing, was that born with your grandfather?
It
or
was.
Where did that come from? Whose
It
dream
absolutely
is
was.
that?
He always loved mechanical things. What happened was when he was 19 years old, he and two buddies found a T-model roadster and drug it back.
Do I hear a rooster?
You hear a rooster?
Okay.
Yep. Wait, the entire area right behind the shop is full of chickens.
All
They
right.
found this T-model roadster abandoned, and they drug it back to his buddy's father's garage. He was a mechanic, and they decided to strip the fenders off of it and make it a speedster.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanic genius of this was a guy named, as he put it, Greasy Johnson. I couldn't tell you what his real name was. That's all that I've ever known him as, was Greasy
Don't
Johnson.
need it. I like it that.
Anyway,
That's
Greasy
perfect.
was the mechanical genius behind this, and he said, that T-model motor isn't going to hold up just dipping at racing competitive speeds. We got to have a pressure feed on the oil. So they took turns for 3 days. You know what a brace bit is?
I do not.
The old hand drill.
Whoa.
3 days took turns drilling the crankshaft
Oh my God.
by hand. They had to want it. So anyway, they
Wow.
ended up doing this, and they were all going to take turns as a driver. And my grandfather.
Do you think
got
anyone
his
today
turn.
in this day and age would spend 3 days hand drilling a crankshaft?
I wouldn't spend hand. I don't care how
I
bad
mean,
I wanted it.
the history is so cool, and
But-
I love it.
He said that when he got his turn behind the wheel, he went out there, and there were guys all over the track, and they're throwing up rocks at him and everything. He's getting hit. He said, "I don't want to drive. I'll just work on them and own them." So that's what he did from that point on.
And tell me, what years would that have been? When this...
1929 is when Hoffman Auto Racing started.
Wow.
Yep.
Whoa, that...
We're coming up on 100 years.
Okay, so are we still talking your grandfather?
That's
or,
my grandfather.
or your grandfather's dad?
My grandfather.
1929.
He was 19. He was born in 1910.
It was the official born on date for Hoffman Auto Racing.
1910.
That's just, October 1929, the stock market crashed, the onset of the Great Depression. So he started the racing career through the Great Depression prior to World War II. That is really cool. I
He's
mean,
like my second father. My grandfather
when
died
did he die?
in 2001.
Really? He lived a long time.
He was 90.
How long can you keep doing this? How long do you want to keep doing it?
Well, I really want to get to 100 years. There's the goal.
We're knocking on the door here.
I mean, yeah, I don't have the income. I work for a tiny bank.
Sure.
And it's not like I'm drawing down a huge salary.
I don't think you're making $1 million
I'm
running
not
race
making
cars
any
either.
money like that. But,
No.
My dad, as a real estate developer, when real estate development was going good, he was pulling down some pretty good change, and we were funding a lot of this right out of his pocket. So I don't have access to those kinds of resources, but I'll do what I can.
Yeah, but you know what? As a tribute to your grandfather and father, you got to make 100. You got to get to 2029.
Well, I'm definitely going to try, and the little 500 is my vehicle to really stay involved, to still be. I love the design. I love the fabrication. I love to create something, and if it's fast and wins races, what an icing on the cake.
Yeah,
but this was my latest acquisition. I got this about 2 weeks ago. We're starting the 5th generation
The quarter midget.
quarter midget.
So you're fielding quarter midgets? Is
I
that
will
what?
field a quarter midget for my grandkids. I've got a grandson. He's actually my step grandson, but I love him just the same.
Sure.
He's absolutely a wonderful kid. He'll start in it, and then I have twin granddaughters, identical twin granddaughters,
Really?
and they will absolutely get.
Do they want to race?
The one had the biggest smile on her face when she sat on this car, and the other one said, "I don't really want to get in it. I'll just be the cheerleader."
These quarter midgets are so cool.
They are.
It's so much fun to watch 4-year-old kids run these things. It's
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
Of course, I had to buy a Stanley.
Well, now, how is that associated with Robbie Stanley?
That's Robbie's parents.
Really?
They built quarter midgets
They
back
built
in the day.
and they're still building.
And they're still building.
So that's a Stanley chassis.
That's a Stanley chassis.
And losing Robbie Stanley at Winchester in 1994
Yep.
in your 69 car, and losing Rich Vogler at Salem in 1990, was there a time when you just wanted to hang it up, or was the best
I did.
there? Oh, you did.
After we lost Robbie, I couldn't finish the season. I told my
You
dad,
did.
I'm done. Robbie was like a brother to me.
That was hard for you,
It
wasn't
was
it?
really hard for me, and I've suffered a lot of secondary effects from that whole deal.
He was a neat man, wasn't he? He was.
He was absolutely a wonderful guy. Well, we went over to Winchester to test the same day that we had a race at Eldora, and he went out there, and after making laps all day in the car at Winchester, he went out there at Eldora, and he just absolutely dominated. And
Yeah.
After the race, he said, after making laps at Winchester all day, this place was easy.
That's interesting.
I thought so too.
Yeah, I mean, I was I thought maybe that might go the other way. But
No,
yeah,
that was the
that's-
pre-repaved Winchester, when it
Yeah.
was about as rough as a plowed field, and you're out there trying to run 14.6.
Well, Robbie was definitely one heck of a wheelman,
He
but he
was.
was also a quality man too. He was a
Yeah.
quality human,
He was, absolutely, and the whole family.
Yeah.
Ron, Ryan, Rita, and Rhonda. They're all great people.
I mean, but you never get past or get over the loss of your son.
No, but they celebrate his life, and that he was really doing something he was very good at, and that he loved, and it was just a freak thing.
Gosh,
And the same thing with Rich.
coming down for the white flag, gonna win the race, and
Eleanor got me through Rich, and really, I was so numb anyway. The night that the accident happened with Rich, I was down there by myself with the race car. My dad and my grandfather were back here.
they weren't there.
My grandmother was dying of cancer, and she was so bad they didn't want to leave her, and they sent me down there with the race car to do that, and that happens. And when I got back here, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I went and I laid down in bed, and somebody came in and woke me about 6:30 and said, you got to come see your grandmother right now. And she was gone in 15 minutes. So I lost 2 people that were very important to me.
On the same day or a space of a day?
In the space of 8 hours.
8 hours.
It was a bad time, but Eleanor really, she was the first one to say, look, he did what he was loving to do and what he was born to do. And it was just a freak thing that happened.
Ultimately, was the best therapy getting right back in the saddle, back to the
That
track,
kind of
back with
was.
your people?
I mean, I was so numb with everything else.
Yeah.
And we had Steve Butler in the car the next weekend.
Another
or
wheelman.
2 weekends after that, and he and I clicked pretty well together, and we went on to win some races in the championship. I'll show you some pictures
yeah.
up here.
Okay.
This is at the Four Crown with Dave Darlin.
Winningest USAC sprint car driver in history.
And that's this guy right here, Dan Launderville.
In the middle, yeah.
Dan was a very integral part of a lot of our championships after 2000. We hired him in. He came in from Iowa. He told my dad he just really had a dream of wanting to go sprint car racing. He was our only full-time employee, and he stayed with us till 2016. So he stayed with us for 16 years.
Wow.
He's like a brother to me. He still lives here in town.
Really?
He now owns a Matco tool truck. So of course
Oh,
I've got
cool.
some Matco tools in my toolbox.
Hi.
now.
How are you?
My wife just joined us.
How
That's
are
my wife,
you?
Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hello.
My long-suffering wife, for 30 years or so while I was on the road with the race. We've been married 29 years.
29 years?
For 30
Wow.
years, she has been back home, making sure that the kids did everything they needed to do, and
That's a big job.
working on her own
Yeah,
career.
it is.
My brother-in-law that was here earlier,
Yeah, is that who that
she
was?
actually has a twin brother who, we were out here in the sticks. There aren't that many kids around. They lived right down the street. So her twin brother was my brother and my best friend from the time that I was 6 and they were 5 through now. And I've known her since she was 5 years old.
Really?
So yeah.
It goes way, way back then.
This
Oh, you don't hear all those stories anymore. I've known my wife since I was 5 years old.
5 years old. That is our very first USAC win. That is
Really?
Jim Hemmings at Salem Speedway.
Ooh, I remember that name, Jim Hemmings.
Yeah.
He was gone before you were.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He's buried in North Vernon, I believe. That same cemetery that Pat O'Connor and Wilbur Shaw's in.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that was an interesting story as well. They went to Salem to practice on Saturday, and they blew the engine. So they went into town, and there was a gas station there that had an open bay, and they somehow talked the guy into letting them change the engines out there. And we didn't have a spare, and the engine builder was up in Crown Point, Indiana. So Hemmings and my grandfather put the Offie engine in the back of Jim Hemmings' Volvo and drove all day and all night to Crown Point, got the engine repaired, drove all night back, ran out of gas on the way, knocked on a farmhouse door, got gas, and kept on getting down there until they got time to put the engine in and get over to Salem, and they end up winning. But the PG rated thing, this was legal back then. Hemmings was a little bit tired after driving all night and being up all night, and my grandfather said, "Here, take one of these." It was speed. But speed was legal back then. So the truck drivers used it all the time. So yeah.
And maybe he doesn't win that race if he's not
maybe.
hitting up on a little
Yeah.
little speed racer there.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful car.
Yes, it is.
Was there ever a prettier sounding motor than an Offenhauser? Not that I've ever heard,
I'll tell
but
you
I mean,
what.
everyone's got their opinion, I guess.
Wait till we get over into one of the outbuildings here.
Oh, that's a Silver Crown
That-
pavement car?
Yep, and that's Danny Dryden driving that for me.
Really?
Yep.
He's the guy that took the wicked flip on the Springfield Mile on a midget?
He is absolutely the most creative and talented fabricator I've ever seen in my life.
Is he still fabricating?
I believe so.
Yeah, I always admired that guy.
There you go.
There's Boom Boom.
Larry Boom Boom Cannon.
Car, huh?
That's the first Hoffman Indy car. 1970 Eagle. 70 Eagle, that was 1974.
Oh, that's 1974?
Yeah.
See who won in 74. Johnny Rutherford.
Yep. And this character here, that would be Larry Curry.
Larry Curry.
He was the crew chief for Tony Stewart on Indy cars.
When Tony was running those Menards cars?
Yep.
Okay.
He was crew chief.
Yeah.
Here's another qualifying picture with Little Joe, and you'll notice that that car is identical to that car.
Yeah?
And that's George Ziggy Snyder.
Oh, yeah. He was from California, wasn't he?
Yep.
Ziggy.
This was the year that they had all the cheating going on, and this was our primary car, and it got bumped. So we weren't allowed to requalify that car with Little Joe, so we put him in the 72 Eagle, figured out how they were cheating, did the same thing, and we were 7th quick with a car that was 7 years old.
Wow.
So then they went to court, and the guys that got bumped, they said, well, you can go ahead and try to requalify those cars, but you only get one attempt and hardly any practice. So looking for a shoe, we found George
Ziggy.
Snyder, who is the king of putting them in on the last day. And, Little Joe is like yay big,
Yeah.
yay big.
Yeah.
And Ziggy is like this big and this big.
that big,
We
yeah.
didn't have time to move the pedals or anything in the
Oh my
car.
God.
So
And he still put it in the
he
show?
sat side saddle in the car.
Oh my God.
So that with his knees crammed up, and he goes, I can do 4 laps like that. And on the
I bet they wouldn't do that today.
no, but on the 3rd lap, he was coming out of the 4, and he went up and he smacked the wall with the right side tires. And the guy that was the crew chief for the team at the time, named Glenn Hall, he said to my dad, he hit the wall, and about that time he goes, woo, down the front straightaway. My dad goes, what are you talking about? He just went past. Sure enough, he did hit the wall, and the tires actually went flat in the qualifying photo up there, because they were mag wheels and they cracked all the mag wheels. He slowed down 4 miles an hour though on the last lap.
Did it make the show?
It made the show. We had 2 cars in the Indianapolis 500 in
Wow.
1979.
79. Who won
Yeah.
in 79? I think that was Rick Mears that year.
Was it Rick Mears?
I think it was.
I
We
thought it
can
might have
check
been
that.
Rutherford with the yellow submarine.
We can check that. Rutherford was 74, 76, and 80, I think.
Okay. And there's the 71
There's
car
that
you were talking
71
about.
car, yeah, Larry Boom Boom. He tore it in two at Winchester, up in turn 1. I was there.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean, it
we'll
was-
take a look at that.
What a crash.
So, Jerry Coons Jr. driving our car.
That's a pretty car.
That was, I think, the 3rd time that he drove for us, and then he ended up driving for us full time the next year. And we, I think that was 2006, 2007. We did pretty well. 2008, we won the championship with him.
Well, and I've for years have seen Kroger on your car. Was that born across the street? There's a Kroger right across the street.
Now, Kroger's headquarters here in Cincinnati,
Okay, I didn't know that.
and one of the, and so is P&G, Procter
Okay.
and Gamble. Steve Butler.
Remember him well?
With a wing car, yeah. We did run wings. USAC ran wings. And we actually set quick time against the Outlaws 2 years in a row down at Bloomington Speedway.
Really?
I talked about earlier just getting a sprint car and going to Lawrenceburg on Saturday nights. And the first night that we went out, we were leading the feature, and we had Gambler brakes on the rear, and it spit the pucks out. And I talked to Gambler, and they go, "Were you running a cotter key?" "Yeah." "Oh, you got to put a bolt in there." So they send me the bolt. I do that, and the second week we're leading the feature, and it spits the brake pucks out of the rear. So I just built a plate out of steel that went over the top of the brake pucks and held them in, and anchored that into the caliper. In the 3rd weekend, we went out and won with this car. So we're thinking, hey, we're hot shit. We're out there winning races. 3 times out, we're winning races. And the driver says, they run Findlay on Sunday nights. Okay. We went up there. Sure enough, we win. He goes, they run Bloomington on Friday nights. Before the summer was out, we were going to Bloomington on Friday, Lawrenceburg on Saturday, and Findlay on Sunday. And this all started with, let's go to Lawrenceburg and have fun and not have any spare parts. And if it breaks, we'll roll it in the trailer. And it just morphed into all of this.
You said you only have, what was that again?
In the shop, we only have 3 pieces of machinery that we purchased new. Everything else
Is used?
is used, came from an auction. Some of it is well used. This year, and you can see it's on the nameplate.
New Bremen, Ohio.
Yep, it was made in New Bremen, Ohio. And we've been trying to date this thing. We're pretty sure it dates back to the early 19s.
Wow.
So, like 19.
What is it?
1910. It's a shear.
A shear.
Yeah, it's basically a giant metal scissors for cutting metal.
Oh,
sheet.
okay.
So, I can shear a piece.
It runs
that's-
off this belt back here?
Yep.
Look at that old belt.
Well, and it was an old belt drive that they actually put a motor on and converted it over to.
Wow.
So, for the noise here. All the body panels that we do here, a lot of things like that, tabs.
You buy a new washing machine today and it breaks in 8 years. You buy something in 1901 and guess what? It still works.
We got a Cincinnati Mill. It's 1955 model.
Wow. Built here in Cincinnati?
Built here in Cincinnati.
That's cool.
And we have this Cincinnati drill press. And again, belt drive.
Oh, wow.
The lathe that I used, that I learned to work on, was belt drive with Babbitt bearings. And it was not very precise. So you learn to be a much better machinist when you have bad equipment.
I believe
working
that.
With.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you develop your skills a little bit
You
better.
have to be better
So yeah,
when the machine isn't as good.
This building here, when my grandfather bought the farm,
Yeah.
was a chicken coop.
Look at this old wood lathe back here.
Oh yeah.
I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
Welcome to Hoffman Auto Racing. This is incredible. It really is.
Even the welder was used.
All these welds are you.
Every single one. Some of them are much better.
What
than
kind of
others.
weld is that right there? That's a MIG weld, a TIG
It's a
weld?
TIG weld.
That's a TIG weld. Okay.
Yeah, I can tell that I'm way out of practice and my eyes are not as good as they used to be.
Yeah.
I can still make it happen.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
There's a lot of time in that.
Oh, I can only imagine. Was this at one time, I assume, a working farm, wasn't it?
They just harvested the crops.
I see.
We had beans in this year, but
I got you.
obviously we don't farm.
I hear you.
For that stuff.
No. You own the ground the Kroger sits on?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
that's your property
and
over
the
there.
ground the Walgreens is on.
No
across
kidding.
My grandfather had 3 of the 4 corners at one point. in time.
Your grandfather was savvy, smart individual.
With a 6th grade education.
That doesn't matter.
I know.
It doesn't.
I learned a
mean
long time
thing.
ago. There's smart, there's book smart, and then there is street smart.
You want to be a millionaire in America? You can. You don't need school. You can do it. I mean, you just choose to do it. Make the decision to go after it. You know?
Well, now
have the courage.
Hoffman Auto Racing is nothing without Big Red.
Big Red.
Big Red. Big Red.
I was going to ask about that.
1996.
Are you kidding me?
It is a 1990 Chaparral.
Oh my God.
Well, that was my dad's thing. He said he never saw a hauler win a race. It was all about putting the money into the race car where it needed to be. Engines and tires. And I've got over 300 and some odd thousand miles in that thing.
I mean, have you had to rebuild the motor in it and stuff?
That's on its 5th motor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's got what's called a 3208 Caterpillar.
So that's a piece of Hoffman history there.
Well, at the Eastern Motorsports Museum, they asked if we ever got rid of it to consider donating it to them. They would build an addition onto the building just to house it.
Wow. This is a piece of history. Think about the time you've spent up on that cab.
It's countless hours.
Oh my God.